So, I want to say a few things to get us started from the perspective of the board, and also as a scholar, a survivor, and an activist who's been greatly influenced by the work of Marie Fortune and FaithTrust Institute. And because I'm a scholar, I'm going to read. So first, I think, I guess, when Emily and I especially have been working on this with the rest of Faith Trust, it was really important to us that the panel, that it's not just be a couple of people speaking, but that there'll be a lot of perspectives that would be given on this work, and that the panel really reflect what Faith Trust has been over these 40 years, which is an inclusive, diverse, listening organization. And so I'm just thrilled to death with the people who are willing to come and be part of this panel and that are going to offer their insights, and both about their partnership with Faith Trust and Marie, but also about this work. I also want to thank Marie. I mean, obviously you need to be here, and we're glad you're here, but I think it's important that you all know that we tried to keep this a secret. And we couldn't, because she informed us she wasn't coming to the AAR. And then before we could digest that, we started hearing plans for a cruise to Norway. And so it would be really kind of hard to have this celebration without Marie here. So Marie, we're really glad you're here. So why are we here today? We're here to celebrate the steadfast, faithful work of truth-telling and trust healing that Faith Trust Institute and its founder has gifted the world with these past 40 years. And also to set our sights on the horizon of justice, as it is abundantly clear that ending violence is more than a life's work. Marie recently reflected that in 1977, it seemed like a good time to change the world. She writes, women were speaking out against violence, rape hotlines and domestic violence shelters were opening across the country, feminist theology was finding its voices. It seemed obvious that our faith communities would not only recognize the violence that was the reality in so many women's lives, but would take a stand and use their moral and cultural authority to address this violence. And she writes, I thought that those of us who were faith leaders were in a unique position to lead this effort and succeed. And she was right, and except for that, they needed to know that they were in a position to lead, and they needed some help figuring out how to do that leading. I think it's a remarkable, and speaking for myself, holler-inducing time to celebrate the impact of Faith Trust and Marie. We are witnessing, not for the first time, the lived secrecy and suppression being ripped off an echo chamber of silenced and suffering survivors. At the same time that reports come from every strata of society, we also hear a textbook case of how persons can use their faith to scapegoat the Mother of Jesus to defend the perpetrator. I look at the current failure of this blame the victim and shame her into silence machine with amazement. We must remember that the ideas that inform the work that so many in this room spend their lives doing did not exist 40 years ago. Now, instead of deafening silence, complicit teachings, there is an incredible treasure trove of language, naming, resisting, and even healing practices, because Marie Fortune, newly ordained, listened where others did or could not. Her ministry became one of pastoral witness and prophetic calling out. It led to creating what we now call the Faith Trust Institute. The center offered a pastoral and prophetic multi-faith response to the suffering of women experiencing sexual and domestic violence. As Marie observes in a key document that we work with as board and staff at Faith Trust, since 1977, we have worked to name the issues of sexual and domestic violence within our faith communities and to equip our leaders to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. During these years, we have learned a great deal about how to approach this work and about what concepts and values are fundamental to success. And though this is not a training session, I thought I would just really quickly highlight those key principles. And I won't go into them because we don't have time, but if you really want to know more, I would say talk to me or Jane about joining the board. So these are the fundamental principles that Faith Trust works from. Faith is fundamental in ending sexual and domestic violence, regardless of the faith or spiritual tradition. Tradition, sacred text, doctrines, teachings, and cultural values will either be a roadblock or a resource to ending violence against women. Faith Trust has been founded on healing goals, which include safety for victims, accountability for abusers, restoration of relationship if possible. Justice making, and I think next to the word change, the word I hear the most when we talk at Faith Trust is justice making. It's the theological and ethical context for the response to the victim survivor, the perpetrator, and the faith group or congregation. And along with that comes taking sides, which means to not abandon the victim survivor, to not accept the abuser's behavior, to seek justice for the victim survivor, and repentance for the abuser. All of this is grounded in a recognition of gender-based violence, and that the role of the faith leader can be actually very critical in naming the unmentionable sins and promoting healing and justice. Through these 40 years, the work has built bridges around the world. There is no easy way to measure the exponential impact it has had. When faith leaders learn how to take the side of victims, develop healthy boundaries, hold perpetrators, spiritual leaders included, accountable, denounce doctrines that compounded the suffering of survivors, a new day was born. And I think we can't measure all the places and all the corners that work has reached. A distinguishing hallmark of Faith Trust, and part of why I love being a part of it, because it's a good feminist organization, has been the work of relationships. It's been inclusive, adaptive, innovative, and strategic in listening to the wisdom of various traditions, various leaders, various perspectives.